Okay, so now we're going to go into the marketing audit. And the marketing audit, it's very much activity driven. There's not a whole lot of, sort of theory behind it. What we're now doing is going out and doing a very practical application of our learnings and really starting to go through and analyze a company. Okay, so taking a strategic and logical approach to understanding what people are doing with their marketing activities. So what we need to do first is we need to do a bit of planning and preparation for the activity. And the first thing is to come up with a sort of the planning aspect. And what we're talking about the planning there is, well, the reason we're doing the marketing audit is so that we can do a bit of an analysis there on what the company's marketing strategies currently are. What are the marketing activities they're implementing? What are the goals that the company has? Are they the right goals? Are they effective? Are they being met? And we're trying to get to a point where what we're aiming to do is focus our communications on a consistent message for the right customers. Okay, so really all that's saying is that we want to go out and have a look at what are they doing, what are their plans, how are they doing it, how are they carrying it out, and are they in fact getting the correct message to the correct customer. The other things we're trying to achieve through an audit is to possibly reveal new or unknown or neglected markets. Okay, so what might happen is we might go through, start to look at are we getting to the right people, but then while we're doing that, we're trying to identify, well, is there anyone else we could have been reaching? Is there a new market out there that's emerged that we might not be targeting, that we might be missing, so we can expand our business and hopefully take advantage of that. And the other thing that we're trying to do is to fine-tune those current strategies to make sure that we are on point, we are on message, we're not wasting our marketing dollars and therefore losing profit, and really making sure we're on point. All right, so the marketing audit considers the internal aspects of our business as well as the external influences that come to bear on us. Okay, and we're also looking at the marketing plan itself. So everything internal to the business, so our people, our systems, etc. Everything external, so what's going on in the world around us, and we'll have a look at those things like steep analysis and all that in a minute. But also making sure that we actually have a robust plan in place and that we are in fact following the plan that we have for our marketing plan in the business. So in order to make sure that we're really getting down to what we need to cover, the thing we need to do is we need to look at, well, whose marketing plan are we auditing? Okay, so we'll normally be auditing someone's plan and that person is our client. Okay, and the client needs to give us some fairly key information so that we can make sure that we're auditing everything and catching what's going on. So the sort of information we'll probably need from the client, and you can make a table for this if you want and whatever which way you want to do it, but you want to categorize this stuff down. So you need to know what's the company location. Okay, so where is this business? And that gives you a bit of geographical understanding. Okay, so where are they located? Not just, I'm located in Sydney, not terribly helpful. If it is a smaller store or some sort of smaller outfit, whereabouts exactly? Because that's going to give you a little bit about the geographics and demographics, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so the company location becomes the first one. Date established. Okay, so in other words, how old is this company? Okay, if it's fairly new, they might have a marketing plan that is very recent. They might not have done, they might not have rounded it out yet. If it's very old, they might have a plan that's out of date. Okay, so understanding when the company was established can really come into understanding what's going on there. All right, one of the other things we need to think about is what's their sales history like? Okay, and when we're looking for sales history, we need to know, well, how many products or services did you sell? When did you sell them? Who did you sell them to? What sort of frequency? What sort of amount? Okay, so now you're starting to really get into a little bit of the 4 Ps type stuff, particularly around price, and the promotion about how they've sold those in the past and what's going on there. So what we're starting to do is identify that. The next one that we need to think about is the number of employees. Okay, so how many people work for the business? Okay. We start to look at not only the number, but who are they? Where are they? What's the disposition? How many do they have? How many of their sales staff? How many of the managers or the customer service or whatever staff they have? How many have they got? Okay, which obviously ties down to the location, but you're trying to get an idea of basically the size of the company and what's going on in there. As I say, we'll put that down, key personnel. Okay, so what you're really interested in is who are the key people particularly. All right, and then the last thing we need to start thinking about is, company events. Okay, have they had any mergers, key acquisitions? What key times did they do things? divestitures. So did they shrink the company? Did they grow the company? Did they buy a new company? Has any of those things happened that we might need to know about? Okay, because obviously if you have mergers and acquisitions or there's changes to the company size, that can affect what they've been marketing as well. And what you're really trying to do is make sure that the plans they have are correct and up to date. So if they've grown the company, but they haven't adjusted the plan since, then your plan's obviously going to need to, your recommendation will be that they need to change. We're not going to preempt that just yet, but that's the sort of key information that you start to go onto. Now, what you'd also want to know from them is you want to get a bit of an estimation from them about what's their awareness level when it comes to their clients. So what do they know about the clients? Their existing customers. How much information do they have? And also a little bit about the client's perceptions. Okay, in other words, how well do they know their clients? And what do they think the clients, what are the company, what's the reputation of the company to those people, and what are the buying influences that are going to start shaping those clients? Okay, now one of the things I found is, once again, working in certain areas where, particularly if you're looking at your local area marketing, 20% of your customers end up deriving 80% of your profit. So, as a business, the first question is going to be, well, who are your big customers? Who are the people that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis that if you lost one or two of them would massively impact your business? And just about every business has that. So talking to these people and asking them, well, who are your major clients? Who are your biggest customers? That's stuff they should know. And then you can ask a little bit more information about those customers just to understand what your client really knows about. Okay, do they know these people? How much they know about them? Do they know what's driving them? I used to have a customer who used to come in and he'd always be, and he was a massive, massive customer of my business, and he'd come in all the time and remind me of the fact, firstly, that he was a massive customer. But then, I'd be able to satisfy his needs. I knew what drove him. He liked the fact that he could always call me and he always had this availability, and that's why he kept doing business with us regardless. We weren't the cheapest price by a long shot, but we were very reliable, and his main concern was reliability. So we obviously wanted to keep reinforcing those messages back to him. And that's the sort of stuff you want to pick up, getting down to that nitty gritty. All right, you also want your client to start talking to you about the goals. Okay, so, what are the marketing goals and objectives? What are they trying to achieve? These people up here, what are they trying to achieve out of their marketing plan? Okay, are they trying to increase the company visibility? Are they trying to grow the number of customers they have? Are they trying to increase market share or maintain market share? Okay, and sometimes it is just to maintain. You could have new people coming in, trying to take your market share, and all they're really worried about is trying to keep it, not necessarily grow, but just to maintain. Are they trying to generate new sales leads? Are they trying to increase usage of the product? All those different things. What are they trying to do, and what are they trying to get out of here? All right. And one of the ways we can do that is just get them to set 6 to 8 goals. Okay, 6 to 8 goals is probably plenty. Just letting us know what they're trying to achieve. The priority, okay, so the most important through to probably least important. We want to know which end we need to target. 6 to 8 should be heaps. And that's what they're trying to do maybe over the next next couple of years. For the short term, what you want to really do is pick out the top 1 or 2 goals they want to achieve in the next 12 months. Okay, we don't want I want to achieve 30 things in the next 6 months. It's not going to happen. All right, so what we're really trying to get down to is, what do you want to do in the longer term? What's the most important thing we need to do short term? How well do you know your customers, and how across them you are, and a bit about your company and how that's all going to work. And that'll give us a really good idea of what's going on, what they're trying to achieve, who they're trying to target, and that way we can start to continue on through the audit to make sure that their current marketing plans are in fact achieving that. Okay, so now we've got all that information out of our client, we need to also come up with a bit of a format of the review as well, or format of the audit activity. And one of the things that we need to then clarify and sit down with the client and make sure he's 100% understood at the beginning, and there's a few little points, to make sure you put this into some sort of report type basis. The first thing we need to do is get an agreed objective. So exactly what are we going to be looking at? Okay, what is the purpose of the audit? What exactly are we going to look at? To try and get an idea of the scope. Are we looking at the whole business and every marketing activity? Are we looking at maybe just one aspect of the marketing plan to see if that bit works? They might say, look, we don't want to look at, a whole bunch of different areas. We just want you to look at our social media. Are we looking across the whole company, or are we only looking at a particular department? Are we looking across your whole product line or just one product line? Okay, so understanding the objective and understanding the scope, okay, about, exactly how big is this thing going to be, really needs to be established at the start. So you know exactly where you're going, exactly what you need to look at. The next thing we need to start to look at is what is the key information? So the key information that we require, and also, if we look at that, and data is probably the way to go there. Okay, so what information do I need in order to conduct the audit, and what data do I need to have available to me in order to really go through and have a look at this? Key information, obviously, their marketing plan. Number one, that we have the marketing plan, that we have any real good customer data, sales data as well, so there's exact sales tracking, so we can start to look for opportunities there, or see what the trends and those sort of things have been. What's influenced the key buying decisions. Okay, we might need a whole pile of that information. The next thing is how is the information? The info. So what are we going to do with the information as into the analysed? Okay, so how we're going to look at that information, what techniques, what methods, or who's going to look at it, how are they going to look at it, when are they going to look at it, what sort of skill sets do we need, it's the bigger picture of how it's going to be analysed. So we're going to track this. Now that I have the sales data, how are we going to go through it? Is someone going to be appointed to going through line by line, or it's up to you. It could be anything really, but what we really want to know is what's the process of analysis. Okay, who, what, where, when, why, etc. So, what, how, why, all those obvious questions you might get into. The next thing I need to think about is also, technology or software required for analysis. Okay, are there any particular software packages we're going to need? SPSS or something like that. Technology platforms, do I need particular technology to go out and conduct the market audit? Remembering that the audit could be quite broad. It could be go and examine sales data in the field. Okay, we want to know how our field service reps are selling product. Well, that means you're going to probably be out in the field looking at it, which means I need technology that I can walk around with, observing people. That could be part of the audit. Really need to think about what are the key activities I'm going to be doing, and what technology I'm going to use to help me achieve that. Okay, if I'm obviously going to be out in the field a lot, I need to think about stuff that's going to be portable. If I'm in an office, well, is it desktops, is it this, is it that? What software is going to be the key stuff we're looking at? There's no point me designing it on one platform if they don't have those platforms in their business and can't open my software files. All sorts of funky things like that. So really thinking it through. Okay, and also how we're going to make conclusions. So what are we going to be basing our opinions off? Okay, so once we've got the data and we've looked at how we're going to analyze it, we look at tech or software, well, how are we going to make sure those conclusions are drawn? Is it just going to be, what's the process? Are we going to have a committee gets together and takes a look at the data and then decides on some conclusions? That's what it means. Is it going to be myself? Is it going to be me referencing someone? Are we going to have further meetings? Okay, so what's going to happen, how are we going to draw this out to make a recommendation at the end, okay? So, because that's what we really want. The end product of this is that we can sit down, give them a report, and more to the point, some recommendations. We're not just going to tell them something's broken, we're also going to say, and here's a bunch of different ways you might be able to fix it. But we need to be able to say, well, what did we draw those on? Was it available resources they had? Was it that we spotted new opportunities for them they could maximize? How are we going to come up with some sort of, conclusion system, and how is that going to be communicated? All right, so by the end of it, an agreed reporting format is probably it's important to know now. And when you come back with the information, once you've done all this and you've done the audit, how does the client want it represented back to them? Do they just want you to give them a report and then go away? Do they expect you to come in and have some conversations? Or do they want you to give them a report and then come back 6 months later? Or, what's going to take place at the end? And by the way, remember, you're only there to make a recommendation. It's up to them whether or not to take it on board. They might say, thank you very much for your information. We're going to continue business as usual. That's up to them. That's cool. You're doing it on behalf of someone else. if you're doing it on behalf of yourself and doing your own audit, you've got to think through, obviously if you've recommended to yourself you're going to do something, you might be inclined to do it. But once again, where it gets very tough for yourself is that sometimes you know what you meant, and you might be in love with particular ideas that you incorporated into your business, and it's hard to let go. So it is very good to bring in a neutral third party to do the auditing. Hard to do it on yourself. As I say, you get these pet loves and habits, and that's what you stick onto. But this is pretty much what should come out at the end. Okay, what's my objective? What key info and data do I need? How's the information going to be analysed? Okay, the methods and who, what, where, when, why. Technology or software platforms are going to require in order to do the audit. And then how conclusions are going to be drawn to form recommendations are going to give to the client, and how does that information need to be presented, justified, backed up, and given over, all right, and what meetings, etc., and what communication methods need to happen. And that's pretty much the planning stage. Make sure you've got all that stuff agreed, you've got all the information out of the client, you've got all those, what the size of the company and all the sales data and all that sort of gear. You've got all these sort of agreements in place. And then once that's tight, you should be able to read through and make sure there is no ambiguity. You don't want to have questions and have to come back later and go, oh yeah, by the way, what are we doing? Make sure you've got all this data down, that you both agreed on it. It's all laid out. You say yes, they say yes, everyone's cool. And then you can go and start to think about conducting the audit itself once you are all 100% happy with what's there.